Awesome. Am I audible and visible clearly, Digvijay? Perfect. Greetings, everyone. I'm P. Shravan Kumar, the founder and CEO of SK Associates and Group, and your host for the second session of today's conference on evolving role of women entrepreneurs in the global economic growth. I would like to request all my fellow speakers and attendees to switch on your webcams and stay on video throughout the conference, especially all the attendees. Yesterday, half of you were not on webcam. Today, whoever will be not on webcam till 7:15 shall be removed from the meeting. Now, I would like to quickly introduce our guests for today's session of Conference 1.1. Firstly, I would like to introduce Ms. Supavati Tantianon, who is the founder of Experience Matters Company Limited from Bangkok, Thailand. She is a member of Strategic Committee Board, Wellness and Healthcare Sector for the Thai Chamber of Commerce in Bangkok, and a director at the board of Malik Group Public Company Limited, a food and beverage services firm in Bangkok. Supavati is also a member at the board of directors of CU Radio, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, and a lecturer at Thammasat University, Thailand. She is a passionate individual about customer relations and loves to observe and plan for relationship quests. Next, we have Ms. Niharika Salak, who is an assistant professor of law at Nalsar University of Law, India, an alumnus of National University of Study and Research in Law, Nalsar, India, and Faculty of Law, National University of Singapore. Her areas of interest include intellectual property theory, socio-legal studies, and legal education. During her postgraduate studies at NUS Singapore, she was awarded the Young Asian IP Scholar Award at the 5th Asian IP Works in Progress Conference Program, Hong Kong 2020. Additionally, she also had the opportunity to work with Professor Chalmers, Vice Dean of Research at NUS Law on his project on legal and regulatory framework of various Southeast Asian countries with respect to their COVID-19 response, where Ms. Salar was responsible for looking into India. At NALSA, she is responsible for teaching various mandatory programs, seminars, and elective courses related to intellectual property right themes for undergraduate and graduate students. Next, we have Ms. Shubhangi Gupta, who is an assistant professor of law at MIT Law School, MIT University, Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, and is pursuing her PhD from Maharashtra National Law University, Nagpur. Ms. Gupta has completed LLM in Intellectual Property Rights from Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur in 2019. Prior to this, she had completed her BA LLB from Institute of Law, Nirma University, Ahmedabad, India. She has published papers like Artificial Intelligence in Legal Profession, Challenges in Protecting Artworks of Graffiti Artists, and many more in journals of national and international repute. Along with this, Shubhangi has also presented papers at various national and international conferences like IPIRA by WIPO Academy, WTU, Texas A&M University. Next, we have Ms. Kavita Bhatia, who is an assistant professor of law at the Faculty of Law, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, and an ADIA practitioner currently pursuing her PhD. Ms. Bhatia was invited as a judge in national and international mediation competitions organized by law colleges in India, ranging from international institutions from New York and MCB Sri Lankan nationals. She has also been invited as a research person in the ADR International Conclave organized by Bharat Mata School of Legal Studies, Kerala, on 22nd to 23rd May 2022. Ms. Bhatia has also been the state coordinator of EMW Magazine and state coordinator and honorary president of the ADR International Club, DSOLS. Next, we have Advocate Monika Chaudhary, who is currently enrolled as an advocate with the Delhi Bar Council and is practicing under senior advocate in Delhi District Courts and High Court of Delhi. She offers expert legal advice and representation services and is quite skilled in fostering positive and trusting client relationships. She has a well-established knowledge of criminal and civil law and is very passionate about career growth and development. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Lama Nesaudi, who is a mediator and conflict management specialist from Lebanon in accordance with Australian mediation accreditation standards. She has completed her studies in law at the Lebanese University along with a diploma in mediation at Options Australia. Ms. Audi is an advocate and the head of Legal Palestinian Union at South Lebanon. She is also a consultant representative of Middle East at 3Cs Met Mediator and the chief and co-owner for the Initiative of Peace, NMD, that is Peace, Negotiations and Mediation for Diplomacy. Lama is also a member of International Organizations of Lawyers, Mediators, and Poly Experts at the CIS Poly Experts Club, and a representative of 3Cs Met Mediators International Institute in Middle East, and a member of advisory board team of eminent and renowned internationally accredited mediators of 3Cs Met International Institute. Ms. Audi is also a member of the Global Arms Control Alliance, GCLA, and has judged multiple competitions of ADR in various universities. Now, I would like to again request all the attendees and my fellow speakers to kindly switch on your respective webcams throughout the conference. I would also like to inform you all that Ms. Vaishali, Shri and team are conducting polls in the chat box jointly throughout the session. To actively participate in the same by giving your opinion in the chat boxes on the polls. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Supavati Tantyanon, founder of Experience Matters Company Limited from Bangkok, to commence her speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here with everyone. My name is Supavati Tantyanon from Thailand. I have prepared some thoughts that I would like to share. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now I cannot see everyone. Okay, hang on. Okay. Right? I think when I got the invitation.
How your screen isn't visible if you're sharing something?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
No.
It's not visible.
Okay, hang on.
Just click on the three dots option at the lower end of your webcam. It will be visible. Perfectly visible.
Well. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, Mama.
Okay, here we go. All right, people. When I got the invitations and asking to join, everyone's here talk about the evolving the woman's role in the 21st century. I mean, the way I look at it is like, well, if you look back, how women have been working or living throughout the history, there are a couple roles that we were taking, since the beginning of the world, starting from being herself as a woman, as a ladyhood, by ourselves. And then when we start to get into the family, there are roles in the family that we have to take on, whether you're going to be moms or daughters or nieces or grandma or auntie. And then when it gets into like more kind of like modern world, women start to step out from the porch and working in the world, being together with the husband or just to help the family to get some means. So then that's why when people get into the more professional world, and now we see more and more women to start working for the society. I think they are like kind of like quite interesting to see, the trend. And more importantly, there are so many studies that happening around the world. When we were looking into women's role, women taking the multi role all her life. During the daytime, she might be a lawyer, she might be a doctor, or she might be a teacher in school or engineer, working, head to head with with her male colleague. But then after 6 or after 8 p.m., she came back home and she becomes mom. She becomes a wife. Okay, so and then again, apart from that, she also being like a household, like a family's manager, look to taking after the whole family business, like household chores. So that's kind of mix, like multiple role for women. In the past, it's been like this, and nowadays it's also been like this. So when I take a look at this, what I learned is that like I so take a look at the study from Mastercard. They have done a very good study, in the last 10 years, taking the study through 90 countries around the world and looking into many perspectives and the factors that making like how each country empower women and taking them into more or less like contributors to the economy. And for the index in 2021, the top 10 are, well, definitely the first three are US, New Zealand, Canada. Okay, but then if you look at the top 10, only one country from Asia coming into the rank, Taiwan. That's quite interesting. Quite interesting. And then if I look further on the like top 20, well, they're still predominantly like dominated by most of the Europeans or Western countries. But there are a couple of the top 20 Asia countries start to get into the top 20. Hong Kong ranked 17, Singapore ranked 18, Thailand ranked 19. But then you get into the top 30, we start to see more. You see Philippines, Canada, Manila, South Korea, Vietnam. And when I look at India is still on the mid part, 57. So there are still way to go for many other countries as well. Okay. The other thing that I take a look at is also, when we look at women, how do we do as a woman as well? That we have about 2 in 3 women that firms have been strongly impacted by the pandemic during the COVID in the last 2 years. About 64% of the companies led by women has been hit hardly by COVID, whereas 52% of men. And if you look at there's a lot of job cutting during the past 2 or 3 years. 54% of those who lost jobs during the pandemic were women, whereas 39% were men. Okay, this one's quite tragic but interesting though. 90% of women who lost jobs didn't, return to work as yet. And I'm not sure whether with today's situation there would be any better side of it as yet. Whereas 70% of men were just going back to work. The last number scared me a bit. When after looking all the parameters, the study found that 36 more years to the estimated that it will take to close the global gap for women and men. And that is like, wow, there's a lot more to do. Not in our generation. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be, live that long for the 36 more years. But actually, the generation to come and the Gen Z, they still have to work on this hardly. Okay. And well, when it's getting to entrepreneurial activity, okay, that's a bright side of it. Okay, in last year, given that a lot of countries have been hit very hard by COVID, regardless of the gender, we were hit very hard. But then from the study, they found that about 14 economies saw increased women's entrepreneurial activity during the pandemic. Okay, it's better, the positive number came from Colombia, Uruguay, and Angola. I think it's good. It's a good sign, though. And when it's looking a bit more, okay, we see more like a younger one that want to come in and want to be like a startup company and looking into more of the society work, SE working and work for the sustainability economy. So that's quite interesting to see that more female want to get into into this part. Okay. And for this one, today, when I read through the study, it's quite interesting to say that 80% of working entrepreneurs in Vietnam, Thailand, Costa Rica, and Nigeria are opportunity driven. We see a lot of new, especially in Thailand. Okay, since I came from Thailand, we see a lot of new entrepreneurs, coming from the younger age group, and women and men here more or less 50-50. We don't really have that much parity when it gets into the gender gap here. Okay, there's still some work that we need to do, but when it gets into the opportunity for the Thai women, I think we were quite lucky, that I saw you in the next slide that the numbers also show that as well. And okay, from this number, we see, 87% in Saudi Arabia start a business. Women in there start a business to build wealth. 50% in UK start to make, some difference. They are more women get into the movement of sustainability, so that they want to do the better work. Okay, 25% Taiwan start to the business to continue their business tradition. Okay, and it's quite obvious for Chinese. Okay, let's look at Thailand. For Thailand at a glance, okay, we rank number 19, score about 51.8%.
Actually, we're running a bit short on time. If you could just wrap up soon.
Yeah. Okay. So for this, nevertheless, we look into this. It's like 61.9%. It's not quite far from the top 10 because the top 10 they were about 70%. So more or less, it's quite close there. And what we can learn from Thailand is that, we have the rapid growth in the digitization. That helped a lot. That opened up the opportunity for women to get, into the, business more easily. And with the help from the government, we have a strong and supporting for SME and also vibrant and fast growing MSME sector. Last year, actually, it's not really like designed for women, but nevertheless, it's like open for everyone. So women grab the opportunities and then get into the business. By saying all this, I think I just want to wrap it up here. Is that I have a big question for all the ladies in the world. That have you ever have a dream? I'm sure that we all have a dream, and sometimes when we have a good dream, we really want to. We really want it to come true and also want it to happen in our life. The question is, should we just like leave it, the dream to be the dream and never really making anything that to make it happen? I think what we could do though, if we know the dream catcher from the native Indian in US, they have the things called dream catcher. And they will hang it, on the tree. Attached. They were saying that, hey, that's for capturing the good dream. So actually, in the 21st century, I believe that we could do the same thing, but instead, it's just like capture. You need to have a big dream, and then you need to more or less go for it, work for it. Okay, and that's what I want to leave, for all the ladies. For me. Most of my life, I've been working through the professional life and climbing to the corporate ladder. I was lucky to really don't have to compete. And then, I had to compete, but nevertheless, I just feel that, people just judge us by the performance rather than the gender. Okay. And this is on the last page that I want to leave it on for everyone. As I came from Thailand and King Rama IX has left us the philosophy of sufficient economy. I think it also works for everyone who wants to start a business. We look at, it has to be moving into the middle path by being moderate, reasonableness, and self-immunity. And by doing that, we will have self-immune and have the vaccine to live the life and also to live to the business. So that's, I think, sorry, I said a lot. start from here. I think, well, I believe that when I see through all the numbers that I study, when women work, economies grow. And most importantly, women have to fight for our own wills and work for it. Thank you.
That was actually an amazing speech to cover this. Well done. I just had two or three questions. The COVID-19 has almost hit the global economy at a whole. How has it affected trade and business concerning women entrepreneurs down in Bangkok?
Well, actually, for Thailand, I think it doesn't really we don't really feel the gender gap that much. So when it hit everyone. Okay, and what I saw is that people here are pretty creative in a way that trying to survive. And luckily, we have the new digital, equipment, the tools that come in and help us through the period. I see a lot of people who have been laid off or who have to be cut off by the salary during the COVID and have to stay home, work from home. They start to have a small venture of themselves, selling things or create some startup. And now, when it gets back to almost normal, people don't want to go back to work. People want to work from home still. So I think I see a lot of movement there. But as I also teach at the school, a lot of Thai ladies also want to be more of the business woman rather than just get into the corporate work. But that's why I see in the movement. Yeah.
That's perfectly answered. I would like to invite all the attendees as well as my fellow speakers to put forward their questions, if any.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Naima Joshi. I particularly enjoyed your presentation and I found the message or the title very inspiring to be a dream catcher. My question for you was that I see you juggle a couple of roles. You're a board of director of some companies. You are also a professor, if I'm not wrong. So is there any gender bias that you might have faced throughout your career reaching to those goals?
Okay. Actually, thank you for the question. It's quite interesting that I might be lucky. I might be lucky because when I was a kid, I studied, in the convent school, Catholic school, girls' school. So from there, when I look back, I think maybe because I was in the all-girls school, so we had to do everything by ourselves. And I don't really say, okay, there's the inferiority of men or women, a boy or girls, because I don't have that kind of experience. We have to do things by ourselves. So once I stepped out from the school, I went to the high school in US. There's a big culture shock there, okay? Have to be co-ed school and everything. But yet again, I have to depend on myself. So for me, I'm being I don't really see the gender difference that much. And when I get into work, from all throughout my career in both, academics and also more or less corporate professional, I don't really have that type of problem because all the companies that I've been with, they're giving opportunities to those who have a good performance rather than by gender. And that's also the corporate culture. But the other thing is, I always talk to every ladies and the younger that I meet. I would say that we have to believe in ourselves first, that we can do it. And the other thing that I learned throughout my career life as well is that being feminine is good, but then we should use it wisely. You should be a feminine when it needs to be, but not in the professional type. When it gets into professional life, more or less, it should be neutral. It should be genderless. So people don't look at you as, oh, that's a beautiful girl. Oh, that is something like good lady. But it's that nice Supavati who working on this topic. And when I talk about that topic, then I don't really, care whether I'm, female or whatever. I'm just I'm just me. So that's why I'm telling everyone also, not just a woman. I have a lot of my teammates, in the past, they were also gay or LGBTQ, I told them as well that if you want people to respect you, why don't you just act as neutral? It has to be genderless, and we have to learn from each other to respect each other, rather than just being a tribal that we gender or by the races or whatever. That's how I believe as well. I'm trying to speak this out, when I have a chance. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope I answered your.
Yeah.
That's
Ma'am, we definitely like to follow your path.
Oh no.
Any
No,
other
I mean,
questions?
just be yourself. I mean, I'm really encourage everyone. And the other thing I always trying to, when I have a chance to speak, in this type of forum, I would say that I rather have the movement to get everyone in the world to respect each other as a human being, rather than put people into the tribal type, because that won't end the world. The world will be like that, and then we will see the races, we will see gender inequality, but actually we don't respect each other, so that won't work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, ma'am.
Any other queries, attendees?
Oh,
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Supavati, for your fabulous speech. Actually, you are an inspiration to multiple students out here, because women entrepreneurs are rare, and seeing you as an entrepreneur definitely inspires them. Thank you for coming to
Thank
our
you.
podcast, making it a pleasure.
thank you,
Now
ma'am.
I would like to invite Ms. Niharika Sadar, an assistant professor of law at Nalsa University of Law, to commence his speech.
Hi everyone, am I audible? Could somebody just confirm? Okay, good. I don't have any slides to share, and I also need to kind of clarify, given the fact that it's already 7:27, how much time do I have to speak? Do you still want me to speak for 15 minutes?
We couldn't get you, ma'am.
Okay. Anyway, let's just get this starting. So it's actually very funny when I was asked to talk about something like this, and I kind of clarify that I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an assistant professor of law. For those of you who are not aware, my name is Niharika. I work at Nalsa University of Law as an assistant professor. And technically speaking, I do not have any experience per se with respect to entrepreneurship. So it really got me thinking that what should I say which has not been said before? And it kind of reminded me, and full disclosure, a lot of what I'm about to speak is inspired from the work of my very good friend called Umika Sharma, who's doing her PhD at NUS Singapore, who's working on the topic of gender diversity in arbitration. Arbitration is a field of law where dispute resolution takes place through amicable sitting and not in front of a court of law. So she's looking into, and she's interviewing people who are facing these kinds of gender diversity issues, and it got me thinking, because I could kind of relate to some extent to what she had to say, or at least her findings were leading to. So it's very interesting because, on paper, you have all of these companies who are kind of doing their best on including and bringing about policy changes which are very gender exclusive. But if you go down deep the layers, you see there's actually a very systematic diversification and an added disadvantage which women in general are prone to. So this kind of stigmatization which happens, it's of course from it's coming from a place of gender biasness and gender stereotyping, which we tend to associate to the sexes, how a man is supposed to behave and how a woman is supposed to behave. And that at a lot of times limits the professional prospects. And that again is based on gender identity. So in terms of law, now, again, I'm not really sure what kind of audience I'm addressing, but in the law fraternity, a lot of times there's always this masculine image of an ideal lawyer, an ideal arbitrator. So if you look at the international arbitration and the law community, they seem to have this gendered assumptions about what an ideal lawyer might look like. and how that ideal lawyer may behave like. And that directly impacts a female arbitrator's or a lawyer's professional aspects. And there's also this kind of tension which exists between meritocracy and gender diversity. So law in general is a field of law which favors meritocracy. It's very risk averse, and it focuses a lot on the lawyer's suitability for a dispute. So there's always this added dimension of opaque methods of appointments. You wouldn't really know who's getting an appointment, you wouldn't really know who's getting the promotion and on what basis. And usually all of these factors, which are then clubbed together, they lead to multiple penalization for female practitioners. And they get penalized because of their gender identity, and it's generally excluded from a lot of professional opportunities. So when you have all of these gendered barriers, and you see examples of this all around you. So for example, any of you who may be interested in entertainment law may know about this person called Priyanka Khimani. And in her interview, she goes about saying that people don't believe when she enters an arbitrator's room because she's the one who's wearing the pantsuit and her male colleagues are following her. And the client would always sit down, or the opposing party would always sit down, moving for a handshake with the male colleagues, but not her, whereas she's the head. So these kind of gender biasness is always there, and therefore you will see it in layers. It's very scattered, and it's always there. Now, how do these kind of issues, really exist? And I have had men telling me all the time, they put on my face that, these kinds of issues don't matter. They're very little to begin with. But when you are dealing with clients who have these stereotypical views about gender roles, they, in a lot of ways, talk about the cross-cultural interactions, which women are then deprived of. And they create a very systematic ecosystem where women are not motivated to excel further. So, for example, when my friend was interviewing a lot of people, she came across a junior female practitioner, and that practitioner's comments on how a lack of female leadership affected her work environment. And that was one of the best examples of how, female practitioners, they experience isolation because of their gender identity. You know how they say it's lonely at the top. It's even lonelier when you're the only female and you're surrounded with men, right? You know that the issues which you face won't be understood by the opposite sex. And you always feel that men would take center stage. Now, of course, I'm saying this with the caveat that it really varies from industry to industry, but the general notion or the general assumption is this. So you always need that slight push, when you see other women also being silent, or you kind of start rationalizing internally, and you think that it's kind of fine when others are also not speaking, so probably your opinion does not even matter. So what I'm trying to tell you is that on paper, at the front of it, you have policies which are inclusive. But still, on a very unconscious level, you start getting okay with the situation that it's okay if you're given this role. You kind of start feeling a gratitude that, okay, at least I got this much, And then this lack of senior female role models, it really affects the way in which people start perceiving their teams. So, a lot of women practitioners have stories of these kinds of discrimination. Additionally, you would also have people talking about, general issues of harassment. So, something again, which men could easily probably get away with and not the women. And for any of you who would have probably faced harassment at any point of time would know that it really impacts your psyche. It comes with a certain level of trauma, which could really take years of healing. So, for example, during one of the interviews, a practitioner talked about dealing with a male partner who always undermined her at every step. And actively tried to sabotage her career because he did not really like the idea of her contradicting his opinions, right? Nobody wants to face contradiction, and even after that, if you're facing contradiction from a woman, most of the times men won't like it. And this kind of behavior is explicitly gendered, and therefore you will see that women have this lonely journey to the top, at least as far as international arbitration team as a partner is concerned. And in addition to all of this, you have something which Umika has termed as motherhood penalty. You know, so a lot of people, a lot of women practitioners, they attribute their decision to move out of certain law firms and sometimes even law practice in general altogether because of role conflict. So again, on paper, you have the idea of maternity leave, you have inclusive policies where women are given all kinds of freedom to go on a break to fulfill their biological role of being a motherhood or just in general taking some time off. But the fact that most of the times when these women return back to their roles, they are not given what was promised. And it's not even funny that a lot of women then start to consider that motherhood is actually a hurdle in their career. Now this again is something which men are not really afraid of because that's not something which comes to them naturally, right? It's the women who is always expected to take care of the kid, bear kids. That's just a biological thing, and it's just there. So a lot of people also talked about being afraid of taking up flexible working arrangements, even though it was provided by the firm, because it's considered to be a potentially damaging career move. And they have seen their colleagues suffer professional consequences post motherhood. Now, there's also support of this view in the broader literature on the legal profession, at least. I say this again with a caveat that I'm talking about the legal profession. Now, all of this being said, um, COVID kind of brought about a change. And it did tell you that you could engage in these gender equality initiatives as individuals or as female practitioners because they keep talking about it. But there are also ways now in which you can gently push back against these firm policies. So again, going part-time, COVID really told us that you could go part-time, you could work from home. And going part-time for a few years for quite a few female practitioners was considered to be the best decision of their lives because it really allowed them to balance their motherhood responsibilities and the job that she was passionate about. So a lot of times when you talk about these part-time arrangements, it is kind of helping in setting up precedent at firms. And that has resulted in, junior colleagues availing of similar arrangements. So how you kind of, tend to have your client meetings when you're on your maternity leave and you make sure that your team is never left out of the loop. These kinds of things start mattering. But like I think Mr. Kumar asked a question that whether COVID has impacted both the genders or not, and the response was fantastic. But I needed to add something to it. Even in a house, when you had the wife working in one room and you had the husband working in the other room, every time the responsibility for lunch, for dinner, is still considered to be a woman's. And again, that's not considered to be a part of the job. That's just something which a woman or a wife is supposed to do, irrespective of whether they have a corporate role or not. How does that eat up in the time? I mean, I think all the women, or at least mothers in this room, would agree with me that it does eat up in their time. It's exhausting. A lot of record to say that they were actually happier when they were working from office because they would have some support for the child at home. Now, again, the man is not considered to be a part of all of this, right? It's just the job. And such is the psyche of at least Indian women that if you're able to get a husband who is supportive, that's a big deal. We don't realize that it's the bare minimum they can do. So these kinds of issues do come up. And I do need to tell you and let you know that in academia, things are slightly better at least. So, for example, I live with a male colleague, and he is also responsible for doing his laundry on Sundays, whereas my Sunday is also busy doing my own laundry because we are both bachelors. That may not be the situation at least 5 years or 10 years ago. So things are changing definitely. But again, when you enter that room, which is full of senior professors who are male, it does make you question that what kind of opinion would you want to put forth, which really matters to people. So that being said, I want to leave some time for questions. I understand I've taken around 12 minutes, so I think I'm well within my time. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I actually appreciate your statement on what I exactly said, that like household chores are still considered a woman's task. Though I, in personal life, consider it somehow a bit different, and I would appreciate helping the other half of my relationship. However, coming back to the conference, I have two questions again, Harika. As you said, in an environment of education management, that is academia especially, where senior professors are majorly males, there is still a consideration for women. So, as far as I know, even in today's world, there's approximately 80% of the staff or the faculty of each college comprises of women. So, do you think the environment is changing? It's like women are being more preferred in some certain industries, especially in education management.
So could I ask you what is the source of your research? Where did you read that 80% of women occupy seats in education institutions?
It's
Could you
like
just tell me the
last
source?
year when I was in university, according to my perspective, half of my B school professors were females. That is major, except for the HOD and PL.
So now it's
So
dropped down from 80% to 50%. That's a major scale. Okay, I'm sorry for this. I just want to correct you. I'm sorry. I think I texted you earlier too about this electricity, right? So I would like to correct you. It's not 80%. At least as far as legal institutions are concerned, and by legal institutions I mean national law schools, not taking into account private law schools. It's usually a 40, 60, 45, 55, which we're talking about. And I do say that, academia in general is a more welcoming profession for women because the work-life balance is much better in academia as compared to the corporate side or the law firm side of it. So the thing is that because you have a welcoming environment, it tends to attract more females, and that's the reason why you have more females taking up these roles. Another thing which I also keep seeing is that from more corporate side, the entire deal is about money and numbers and fact and just the figures. The more money you can pull in, the more you're able to progress in that work role. So how you tend to behave with clients, whether you give out an aggressive approach or not, whether you say that we're not defensive, we are aggressive, which apparently comes naturally to men. These kinds of roles and biases which are attached to men, they tend to prosper more in law firms. Whereas in academia, where it's about teaching, where it's about helping students, you automatically start associating it with a more maternal factor. Now, again, you can have questions, you can disagree with me, but when you have those roles attached, it seems that a female apparently fits better in that role. Again, apparently. Facts again, numbers are a little different. You still have more men in a lot of educational institutions. But I see that that's one reason probably why academia serves as a better institution. Probably the hurdles which women face are relatively lesser. I again say there are a lot of hurdles, but at least as far as the corporate sector is concerned, you have relatively less. So these are some of my thoughts which I feel might be contributing towards a more welcoming environment for
that's the
women.
point again. I would like to invite all the attendees to put forward your questions, if any. Osama, Mr. Jha, Richa, Naima, any?
Ma'am, I would like to ask one question. It's not relatively to academic field. Um, uh, since I am very inclined to news and current affairs things, so I have analyzed that there are very less women at the judicial level, at the head level, because right now, as our current CJI is living, there's women CJI is getting a hands up, so she's going to be our CGI, first women CGI. So I want to ask, what will be the, what is the main reason that they are not, there is not any adequate representation of female lawyers, or the female judges at the very high echelons of the our nation.
Right. Let me give you a very, very quick example. Did you know that up until around 40 or 50 years ago, not all high courts or even the Supreme Court for that matter had female washrooms?
Yeah, yeah,
You know
yes,
how
ma'am.
these things really add up. It's
Yeah.
actually very funny. Forget about 40, 50 years ago. Just 2 days ago, I saw a conference advertisement on LinkedIn which said, or the title of which was Role of Women in IPR, but the entire panel was of male. There's a term for it. It's called a manel, MANNEL, where the idea is just to showcase women representative, but actually it's the men doing all the talking.
Yeah, yeah,
How do you expect men to show issues of women whereas they have not experienced it? As far
exactly.
as judiciary is concerned, you have many tiny issues attached to it, and it's not something which I can go on record to say, but you have certain discrimination. There's systematic discrimination where a certain pool of men will only pull up males and not women for escalation, right? That's there. Secondly, judiciary is a place, is a job which requires you to shift and move a lot. And a lot of times women consider that settling in is a better option, having a stable job, being in one place. Not a lot of them are comfortable moving. Of course, that's changing with this generation, but at least these has been the issues up till now that why women did not take up judiciary. But as far as I know, at least as far as the last 4 5 years are concerned, the number of women takers of the examination is increasing multifold, and that's there. I think there are developments, but we still have a long way to go. Like I said, it's a very internal, systematic
Yeah,
differentiation, which is very difficult to fight when you're the only one.
yeah.
So yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah.
That's actually a point, Niharika. Anyway, if any of you have any more queries,
I have dropped in my email and my LinkedIn in case anyone would like to get in touch with me. Feel
great.
free to.
If anyone has
Sure,
got any
ma'am.
queries, you may mail out Ms. Sala. Thank you for your amazing speech. Actually, even
Thank
gave me
you.
insight into your industry, especially. Thanks,
Thank you,
Niharika.
Yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you.
I would like to invite further Ms. Shubhangi Gupta, Professor of Law at MSMED Law School, Madhya Pradesh, Gwalior, to commence her speech.
Thank you so much. First of all, before starting with the presentation, I would just, this is my concern that just let me know if I'm, not audible or the slides are not moving. So, okay. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this particular platform, to express on this particular issue. And since there is, time constraint, I'll quickly start with the presentation. Just a second. Is my screen visible?
No, no, no.
Okay, just a second. Now is it visible? Now is it
Yes,
visible?
yes, yes.
Okay. So I would start with my presentation, by quoting a saying by Peter Drucker that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And when we are talking about the future, be it the present and the future of the nation is entrepreneurs. So without further with moving ahead, I would just like to give the structure of my presentation. Firstly, I would be talking about the role of the women in the global economy at a bigger level, and then I would be structuring it down. I would be keeping it precise to the role of women in Indian economy per se. So when we talk about the future, the present, as stated earlier, all entrepreneurs are the present and future of the economy per se. So it's not this thing that the entrepreneurs only create and build the business, they create and build the economy as well. They have this particular characteristic, that is leadership, and leadership plays a key role in structuring the business, in structuring the nation. And when we talk about this particular attribute of entrepreneurial leadership, it is a study done wherein it is proven that women are women have this particular trait inbuilt. They are proven to be comparatively a good leader, which brings up to the topic that women possess a huge amount of leadership skills. As you could see in the next slide, I have taken this data wherein you could see the representation of the female and the male entrepreneurs, their contribution in the innovative product or the service. So this is some of the data which you could see on the screen, wherein the women has also contributed in the innovative product or service by region. But despite of this leadership skills, despite of all of these things, there is still there is still this potential of the women entrepreneur which is untapped. There are still women entrepreneurs who are struggling to establish them, and we are required to give a direction. So, which brings us this brings me to the next slide, wherein this is a data by McKinsey Global Institute, which basically talks about that advancing women's equality would add upon 12 billion over here, sorry, 12 trillion to the global economy by 2025. So, this particular highlight, that is women's equality. Again, this gender gap, this women equality is a big reason that still the women in every area, be it law, be it medical, in every area, women are struggling because of the reason that we have this gender gap, we have this women inequality. And it is reported by time and again in data per se that in every area still this, despite of a lot of development, a lot of contribution, of the women in the economy, still this inequality persists. And when we talk about business per se, entrepreneurship per se, there are instances wherein significant instances are there wherein there is inequality which persists among the male and the female entrepreneurs. So one of the data which I took wherein the World Economic Forum, according to the World Economic Forum, for every dollar a man gets paid, a woman on average only gets paid 54 cents. But it is in general, if you observe, it is also seen that if you talk about women per se, any of the organization, any of the institute, which is founded by women, that is successfully doing well, comparatively, I would say, doing well, or if not, extremely well, it is at par with the, institution, with the startups, with the businesses which are run by men. And it is the research done by Harvard Business Review as well that women outscore men in most of the leadership skills. And I am stressing, much about leadership skills and all, but it's not only one attribute of the women, wherein I'm trying to say that women could develop or, women could develop in entrepreneurial skills because of their leadership skills. Along with their leadership skills, they have this skill of working in team. And another important skill which the women entrepreneurs are contributing to the economy is the generation of employment. As you could see, these are some of the data from European Union and other countries as well, which indicate that there exist more than 10 million self-employed women, and in US 6.4 million self-employed women, providing employment for 9.2 million people. So from the data per se, you could figure it out that women are not only using the opportunity, they're not only taking this opportunity or involving in job for themselves, they're also creating opportunity. If you see any of the women who is involved or who has a business setup, he or she, she is more inclined to take up women who are marginalized persons. So we could say that this has a very huge impact on the economy per se. It is creating employment opportunity. But still, despite of all these reasons, the gender inequality and the gender earning gap persist. Specifically in business, one of the example I took is of venture capital funding, wherein all men teams attracted nearly 80% of the capital, while the companies were founded by women, only received 2% of funding. So we could see that, these are some of the data. I have time and again, cited data over here to bring out this reason only, that there still exists gender inequality and gender earning gap. Now, what we could do, to just remove this particular gender inequality. So we could, create more women-tailored businesses to fill this particular gender inequality. We could make more women-focused networking opportunity. When we talk about business, women are much more at a disadvantageous position in networking. So we could make policies which empower, which basically are more focused on the networking opportunity. Then the representations of the women should be more at the top management, and importantly, women should be treated as equal. When we're talking about the women-centric laws, this should be made, reservation, each and everything. This is only to bring forward this particular view that we are required to be treated as equal. It's not something that you're required to give more impetus, more importance, but you're required to treat, at least not more than treat us as equal. So by these some of the points we could cover this gender inequality issue. Now very quickly I'll be talking about India per se, that when we talk about India, the economy of India, we could see that as of now there is a lot of contribution which is made by the women entrepreneurs, be it any of the company. As you could see, I hope you can see the screen. So there is the data which I took from the net, wherein these are just to name a few. There are more of the companies which are founded or co-founded by the women entrepreneurs, be it Byju's, Nykaa, MobiClick, to name a few. These are the organizations which are founded and co-founded by the women. But this was not always the scenario. Like right now, we could talk about this thing, and we could say, we could represent the data that women are doing this and that. But always that was not the scenario. Now, quickly, I will be talking about the timeline which persisted. This urge of women entrepreneurship, that the women should also open up small businesses, they should be entrepreneurs, they should start the businesses. It started from 1960s. So 1960s basically saw a financial turmoil, and due to that particular financial turmoil, or you could say the instability, financial instability, that led women that gave women a push to earn income, basically an extra income to support their family, not for themselves but to support their family. So they were involved in small businesses, like in food industry, or maybe in bangle making, pottery. So these were some of the small businesses wherein the women were involved. Then we have the second phase, that is the 1970s. The 1970s basically continued, you could say, the momentum which was started in the 1960s, and more of the women were, in 1970s, were now involved in the professional and the public arena. And when we talk about the phase of 1970s, it is required to be noted down that a notable development was founded basically by Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. That was the foundation of Biocom. So at that particular time as well, when Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw founded the company, wherein she faced a lot of issues. The first and foremost issue was that she faced was in relation to the funding. If you are women, as stated earlier also, in the international era, the funding part is a big issue, because being a woman, it is not accepted by the society that you could run a business per se, you could manage finances, rather to be more precise. Same, situation, same problem was faced by Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw as well, that she, struggled a lot to gain finances to start with her company. And after that, it was even more difficult to convince people that there is this requirement to obtain drugs at a very cheap rate. But despite of all these difficulties faced, she developed, and she succeeded as a women entrepreneur. She developed the company, and now the company is having subsidiaries as well. Moving ahead with the second phase, that is the 1980s. In this particular phase of 1980s, the technological advancement now was brought forward to the women entrepreneurs. They were much focused, since there was a lot of schemes, there were a lot of this impetus was given to the education to the women. So it was much stressed that now women are required, and the girls specifically, they believe that they would complete their education, and once they're done with the education, then they would start their venture. Which brings us down to the next phase.
Excuse me, Ms. Gupta, if you could just wrap up in 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So with the last, as you could see, I've stated the timeline as well, and the data over here, the 2000, you could see various schemes basically was launched, both in 1990 and 2000. Various schemes were launched, to promote women entrepreneurs. So moving ahead, these are some of the data which I took, that despite of this reason that loans were given, and women were much encouraged to develop, to participate in business, but still only 20% were involved. So this encouragement, when we are talking about, these are some of the data I did too, but when we talk about the encouragement, time and again I'm talking about that the women are required to give them the encouragement. So it's this particular point we're required to understand, that when we're talking about the entrepreneur development in relation to women, entrepreneur development and empowerment are complementary to each other. You are required to empower the women. You are required to encourage them to participate in various productive activities. It could be any activity. As long as they are empowered, automatically their entrepreneurship skills, they will give more contribution to the economy per se. Now, these are some of the study which I took by Purva Khera, which is talking about the gender gap, wherein the gender gap still exists. And further, if you close this particular gender gap, there would be increase in 6.8% of the GDP per se. Again, another data which I took by McKinsey Global Institute, which suggests that more of the women, more of the opportunity would be created. GDP would have a positive impact if equal opportunity to women would be given. So these are some of the government initiatives which has been taken by the government. Time and again, we question that what are the initiatives which is done, and all of these things. But we are required to keep this thing in mind as well. The government is taking a lot of initiatives. The only reason, as you could see in the fifth bullet, I have highlighted this particular point as well, that only 1% of the women are availing of these government schemes, because they are not aware only that these schemes are still into existence. And if we talk about the rest of the 10%, they're not taking this particular scheme because they have this preconceived notion that it would be complex. So this particular point is required to be is required to be kept in mind, that these are not complex schemes. Depending upon the organization, depending upon the areas in which the women wants to establish their business, that there are different loan schemes wherein without any collateral per se, a limit has been stated that at this limit you will be given. So we were required to keep this particular thing in mind. And to conclude, since we are running out of time, in order to conclude, I would just say this particular point, that when we talk about women encouragement, we talk about leadership skills. We have stated, we have seen the facts and figures as well, the contribution of women. But we're required, when we're talking about the encouragement, we're not required to think of this particular point, that encouragement does not mean that women does not have the courage, or women does not have the confidence. They have a lot of courage and the confidence to excel in their particular field. But what is there is the societal norm. This is my personal experience, that there is this pull factor which is there, specifically if I talk about India, wherein due to our societal norms, it is not perceived that even women could establish a particular business. So once the societal norm that women is required to balance everything, women has more role to play in the personal life as well, all these things are required to look at a positive perspective per se. So one of the example I would like to share, and with that I would end. One of my friend, started up a business with her, a wife per se. So both founded a particular, both started a startup. But whenever anybody used to come and visit them, they used to say to my friend per se, all right, you started the business and your wife is assisting. So we are required to keep this particular thing in mind, that wife is not there to assist the husband. The women, the men both have equal role to play. They both have co-founded that particular company. They are required to be treated as equal. And with that, I would end the presentation by citing a quote by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, that when women moves forward, the family moves, the village moves, and the nation. So thank you, and
Thank you, Ms. Gupta, for your informative speech. Actually, you covered up many, like schemes and provisions that are prevalent and have been made for, like encouraging women entrepreneurship. Our major motto to invite professors of law as well as legal professions for the conference was just because you all, like our legal advisors basically. So when you actually inspire entrepreneurs down there, female entrepreneurs especially, they might feel more confident to come in because they might feel the government and everyone is working to like give them an opportunity to present them. The provisions and the stuff were actually very clearly elaborated. I don't have any queries first.
thank you so much.
Now, I would like to request you to share your email ID in the chat box as we are running in the constraint. So, if anyone who has any queries, you can just connect with Shubhangi over LinkedIn or you can mail her. Okay? Yeah. Now, I would like to thank.
Yeah. Ma'am, I would like to say that please share the data in the chat box.
Sure. I'll share the slides per se with the organizers.
Actually, I couldn't see I only see the first page, but I couldn't see the following slides. So that's
all right.
why.
So that's why in the starting I did clear, but definitely I'll share the slides.
Thank you so
No
much.
issues. I would like to thank Ms. Gupta for her amazing and informative speech actually. And now I would like to further invite Ms. Kavita Bhatia from Maharaj Sayaji Rao University of Law commence the speech.
I hope I'm audible. Please let me know. If not,
yeah, it's clear.
Yeah. And I'm just sharing my screen. Please let me know if you could see the same. I hope it's visible. Please let me know. The screen is
the screen is visible.
Yeah. So since the last 1 hour, I'm observing that the talk is going on the hurdles which a woman entrepreneur in India across the world facing, and then we need a solution for the same. I'm going to talk, deliver a topic in which the opportunities which is going to be discussed in this next 15 minutes. The topic which I have framed for this session, that is ADR, a new era of dispute resolution and role of women entrepreneurs. See, the term ADR is not unknown to all of us, but then again, the importance and the prevalence of the same in India is not that much satisfactory as it could be. So today I'm going to discuss the role of women, and they can contribute being an entrepreneur, and they will establish a new startup catering the services of dispute resolutions in India. Let me share the presentation is like the scope of ADR in India, then role of women in dispute resolution, and role models especially. If we talk about the data, according to the National Judicial Data Grid, over 31.26 million cases are pending in Indian courts. Even if no new case is filed, it will take 300 years to just clear this backlog. As per state-funded survey conducted by Dux Foundation, 40,000 plus cases are filed each day, and 80,000 crore per annum is lost due to delay in court hearings. So looking to this data, I need to say we need to cope up with this situation, and ADR, that is alternative dispute resolution, which is providing scientifically developed techniques through which the burden on the courts could be reduced. There are various modes of dispute resolution, which includes arbitration, conciliation, mediation, negotiation, and of course, lok adalats, which is considered as people's court in India. And we consider that the legal service authorities uh, significant aspect wherein people can approach the lok adalat, and wherein they can submit their dispute, and they can get the resolution of their disputes amicably. And the unique feature of this lok adalat is the award made by the conciliator here in lok adalat is not appealable. So, like, considering the importance of ADR, which is like no doubt since many years the ADR has been part of our Indian legal system, but then significance has been ascertained during this COVID time, wherein cases were pending in courts, and the courts were closed, and people were struggling for justice. So now it's time that India should take up this matter seriously, and consider the importance of ADRs, and we should take step wherein even not only men but women entrepreneurs will start their startups, and they can resolve the disputes, and they can cater services in the society. Let me discuss some other yes. The Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, sir, has highlighted that there is a need to establish more commercial courts for dealing with arbitration cases, and nominating experts in the field to be judges of those courts while maintaining minimal judicial interference. Chief Justice has rightly mentioned that as we are very much aware about the fact that with emergence of these commercial courts, it is very much mandatory to resolve disputes through ADRs, and all commercial disputes are to be submitted to these commercial courts, and then only if it is getting failure, then only it is to be submitted for litigation. So Chief Justice of India has appealed that we should consider establish more civil courts, so that we can have more arbitrations, and we can reduce the burden of courts. Further, Justice said that the concept of alternative dispute resolution has the potential to transform the Indian legal landscape by providing a platform for millions of people to settle their grievances. We may consider that ADR is again a platform wherein people can settle their grievances. Honorable Justice has also of the opinion that not only this not only arbitration, but then other mode of dispute resolution like mediation, then conciliation is not that much given importance, and with adequate cooperation from all the stakeholders, we can do better, and we may consider that yes, ADR can help out, and women entrepreneurs can start their own startups wherein they can utilize their expertise in dispute resolution. Let me discuss one another fact which is considered by the justice. Justice says that India lacks institutions which are at par with organizations of international repute like ICC, that is International Court of Arbitration. Another institutions which are internationally renowned like LC LCAI, SIAC, HKAIC. These all international organizations are catering services for dispute resolution through arbitration. And hence, foreign companies entering into business contracts with Indian companies prefers foreign arbitration centers over Indian institutions because of the reason that the this business people won't find a reliable platform for resolving their disputes through arbitration. Sir has also said it's not only arbitration which is not given much importance, but then other techniques of ADR, that is mediation, conciliation, and negotiation, are not that popular as in foreign countries. Let me quote Ms. Paulomi Tripathi. She is India's permanent mission to UN, and she is the first secretary of this India's permanent mission. She has noted that majority of peace agreements signed in the last 3 decades have no women signatories, and a vast majority of peace agreements failed to reference women and addresses their concern, such as gender-based violence. There is an urgent need to institutionalization the involvement of women in conflict prevention and post-conflict reconstruction. This requires not only normative advice, but also commitment, capacity, and institution building at ground level. Women are the central categories. So looking to this scenario wherein cases are pending in courts, and courts are very much burdensome, and the pandemic has worsened the situation. So now, if we consider women as the dispute resolution, as the one of the third neutral party wherever there is a dispute. So we consider that women are the central caretakers of families. If we consider there is a dispute between 2 children's, mother would be the conciliator or mediator between them. If there is a dispute between father and mother, a child, so a girl child would better person to resolve their grievances against each other. So we consider a woman who's the central caretaker of families, and everyone is affected when they are excluded from peace building. And women are also advocates for peace and peacemaker, and we consider they are relief workers and mediators. Women and girls play varied roles during violent conflict. Women may be combatants or provide services to combatants, or they may be peace builders working to resolve conflicts in their communities. Women leaders can also be effective peacemakers at the community level. We can consider looking to the qualities where women can interrupt and reconcile the grievances of the disputant parties. So women have that capacity, and I urge that women should take initiative. They should start their startups, and they should take this EDRs further. If we consider the role of women entrepreneur in this legal field, no doubt there are other fields wherein women can excel the heights, but then ADR is one of the emerging field wherein the expertise, which is very much inbuilt in their nature, to understand the perception of the parties and reconcile the grievances of the people. So we should not forget the role of female entrepreneurs, as they are the key to shape the next generation. When it comes to motivating young women, they are leading by examples. They are influencing their attitudes and ambitions. Let me discuss, as that time is not much given. I have included one role model, which is considered for India, that is Meghna Srinivas. She is the founder and CEO of Trustin, a Bangalore-based legal tech startup for reporting and redressal of prevention of sexual harassment cases, and also supports end-to-end implementations. Right. She quotes that at Trustin, we believe everyone should feel safe and empowered to pursue their goals. And we know this sense of safety matters at workplace, companies and colleges, campuses, where we spend most of our time. So considering the importance of awareness amongst women, wherein they are working as an employee, or maybe she is having her own startups, but then again, while dealing with people in the society, she is she is becoming victim of sexual harassments. So like she is doing well, wherein the cases of sexual harassments are arising. So like this, it's not on it's female who can understand the victimization of women for sexual harassments, and like it's you women who will be considering their grievances and can better give the platform for redressal of this grievances. So I do consider the contribution of Meghna Srinivas, wherein she is concentrating on the issues pertaining to sexual harassment in India by running this startup which she has, that is Trustin. I would like to conclude with the quote of Mahatma Gandhi. He said that I realized that the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties. A large part of my time during the 20 years of my practice as a lawyer was occupied in bringing about private compromises of hundreds of cases. I lost nothing thereby, but even not even money, certainly not my soul. So, like considering even if Mahatma Gandhi was a barrister, and but then he has more advocated the alternative dispute resolution, and he has considered the significance of the ADRs, and given direction to like Indians, so that the lawyers can take up this alternative dispute resolution as one of the tool to resolve disputes of the people in the society. I consider it's not only it's lawyer who will be considering the disputes first, and then before taking the same for litigation, a law it's a moral duty of the lawyer, even from the professional ethics, wherein he or she should try to resolve the disputes amicably first, and then only advise the parties for filing a litigation in courts. So like there is a scope for women entrepreneurs in India to sharpen their skills. There are various law schools, those who have introduced certain programs wherein certification courses are being run by institutions. They should enroll for that, and they should learn how to deal with these techniques and all. So it's I would like to conclude with this quote, and like the upcoming lawyers should consider the importance of India. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Kavita, for your amazing speech. Actually, the point that you mentioned, Mahatma Gandhi was a barrister, and his message, that's actually very innovative, as there are multiple students out here who are from the legal field, and definitely that example of a legal startup in India would actually motivate them, because India definitely has got a lot of scope for entrepreneurship out there. Especially females could do like bring a transformational change in that particular direction. Thank you for your amazing speech.
Actually, teaching the professional ethics, it is like more or less guiding the students not only taking this as a money making business. It's not a business. I teach my students while teaching professional ethics, it's not a business but it's a profession. And a profession is something wherein your devotion is required, and devotion in terms of what, the actual spirit of resolving the disputes. I keep on telling my students, what do you want, like lying files in your cabins, or like just resolving the disputes before the file is lying in your cabin first, right? So that's what is required for upcoming generation in the legal fraternity, that they should understand the importance of ADR.
Exactly. That's actually a very like inspiring message for the children.
Inbuilt skill, they can resolve the dispute amicably.
I would like to thank Ms. Bhatia for the
This is
amazing
my
speech.
this
And
ADR.
at the same time, I would like to request you to drop your mail ID in the chat box so that if any students have got any queries, they can connect you across LinkedIn or mail you. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Advocate Monica Chaudhary from the Supreme Court of India to commence her speech.
Hello. Am I audible? Okay. Although most of my speech has already been discussed by the previous guest speakers, but it's okay. I will start with my speech. So, very good evening to all. My name is Monica Chaudhary. I am an practicing advocate in Delhi District Court and Delhi High Court. I am highly obliged and grateful to be the part of this conference, especially when it comes to the women's right and their evolving role in the society. So I would like to start my speech with a beautiful quote by one of the most famous and intellectual Indian Hindu monks, Swami Vivekananda. He said, "The best thermometer to the progress of the nation is its treatment of its women. There is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of the women is improved." So as we are talking about the entrepreneurship is one of the aspects that contributes widely in the growth of the global economy. Now, taking into consideration the contribution of the women in the economic growth in today's era, women is playing prominent role in enhancing and excelling in the growth of the global economy. Women entrepreneurs are those who create their own business, create job opportunities, and therefore contribute in social and economic growth in the society. Women entrepreneur and their contribution in the society has become a discussed topic nowadays since report released by Global Entrepreneurship Monitor Survey 2020, which is showing that 274 million women globally are involved in business startup. In addition to 139 million women are owners and managers of established businesses, and 144 million women are informal investors globally. That's 274 million women impacting the world economy. But as we all know, the present position of the women was not same in the past, and women have been the victim of the gender biasness and inequality. Social, cultural, and economic barriers was faced by them. In almost all the countries, past society was male-dominated and patriarchal, where women have been subjected to inequalities. They were unrecognized, they were non-resilient, and many kind of atrocities have been inflicted on them. And it was believed that women can only be the housewife, and her duty was of childbearing and rearing and to do the house chores. Although Manu, the famous Indian lawgiver of the ancient India, was of the view that where women are honored, there resides God. Women was said to be the Ardhangini, or the better half of her husband. But this view was only bookish. The status of the women in positive context started changing after the World War II, when the UN Charter enacted for the protection of human rights. The Article 1st of the Charter aims to achieve international cooperation in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and for fundamental freedom for all, without any distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Thereafter, a session was held in Vienna in February 1984 by Commission on the Status of Women of the UN Economic and Social Council, which reviewed and appraised the strategies for developing the policies regarding the concerns of the women, women's full and equal participation as agents and as beneficiaries, enhancing the entrepreneurial and technological capacity of the women, etc. Thereafter, in 1988, UN Economic and Social Council affirmed the interrelationship of the objective of UN Decade for Women, that are equality, development, peace, as regards the advancement of the women and their full integration political and economic, social and cultural development. One of the 17 sustainable development goals is to achieve gender equality and empower all the women and girls. Now, as if we come about the statistics, as per the report of the Female Entrepreneurship Index 2015, which was developed by the Global Entrepreneurship and Development Institute, which analyzed 77 countries, from which top 5 countries are USA stands at first, which score 82.9 points out of 100, followed by Australia, UK, Denmark, Netherlands are on second, third, fourth, and fifth position. By 13% business, the risk has improved. Overall, there has been 7% increase in the percentage of female entrepreneurs who intend to grow their business by 50%, which is quite interesting. And more women are coming forward for their contribution in the economy. Another report, which is Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, released a Women Entrepreneurship Report 2020 and 2021, that around 30.2% of the women entrepreneurs expected to hire 6 or more employees in the next 5 years, as compared to 18% in 2019, which is quite interesting, which is a gain between the percentage, and concluded that the contribution of the women in the field of the entrepreneurship is significant for promoting the inclusive economic growth globally. In the developing countries, 17% women are entrepreneurs and 35% aspire to become the same. In North America, 13.6%, in US and 13.9% in Canada, women are already involved in entrepreneurship world, and Middle East Africa region shows highest rate of entrepreneurial intentions for women in the world. We have many examples of the women entrepreneurs who are being highlighted in the business world and setting an example for the future women entrepreneurs. Some are like Oprah Winfrey. She is a successful actress, talk show host, philanthropist, and entrepreneur who rose from humble beginnings. Susan Wojcicki, she has been the CEO of YouTube. Another is Sheryl Sandberg. She is the first woman to sit on Facebook's board of directors. Melanie Perkins, she is one of the younger female entrepreneurs on this list. If I talk about India, in India, the current female population is 48.4% as that of 51.6% male. In India, women play pivotal role in the micro, small, and medium enterprises sector. According to Statista survey, it was found that in 2021, around 20% women own the enterprises, which is rapid increase from the past decade. 10% of Indian startup unicorns are women-led. Some of the famous women entrepreneurs are Kiran Majumdar. She is the founder and executive chairman of the Biocon. And another is Malika Sadani. She is the founder and CEO of the Momsco, which is a effective product for pre and postnatal care babies and conscious consumers who are seeking personal care solutions. Another is Aditi Gupta. She is a co-founder of the Menstrupedia. She is working on the spreading awareness about the menstruation. Another is Falguni Nair. She is the founder of Nykaa.com. So, concludingly, the contribution of the women entrepreneurs in the economy is different for developed and developing countries. The motives behind the women entrepreneurship is different in developed and developing countries. In developed countries, the desire can be self-fulfillment, self-independent, creative skill, etc. Whereas in developing countries, studies show that there are most cases in which self-employed women are pushed by economic and social conditions such as less income, poverty, widowing, high rate of unemployment, and divorce problem. So they start their own business for fulfillment for fulfilling their basic needs or to support their family. These entrepreneurs cross the spectrum of micro to high growth, from supporting to creating wealth. Women entrepreneurs play a significant role in contribution of the global economy by creating new job opportunities, innovation, employment, and wealth generation. As I have said earlier, as per the report, that 274 million women are going to impact the world economy, and many more are about to come and taking the world forward. So I would like to end my speech with a statement that an empowered and resilient woman is the driving force in enhancing the business world. Thank you.
That was actually an amazing speech, Monica. You quoted multiple statistical figures and definitely towards the examples of some of the board of directors of like renowned institutions who are definitely women. However, I have two
Yeah.
questions from you. If you'll not have any issues, Monica, being a lawyer in the Supreme Court, especially, where there's a common misconception amongst lawyers and advocates
I would
nowadays,
like to
especially
correct you.
freshly
I would like to
qualified.
correct you. I am an advocate in Delhi High Court and District Court, not now in Supreme Court.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Still, it's like there are commonly misconceptions among lawyers that to climb high in practice, you need lots of experience, and definitely if you are a second or third generation lawyer, it helps a lot. What's your perception on that? How could women remove such misconceptions and climb the hierarchy a bit in an inspirational way?
I would like to say that although I am a second generation lawyer, my father is already an advocate, my brother is an advocate, I'm assisting them. But I have seen that first generation lawyers are suffering a lot in India. They are not getting a penny. The hard work they are doing, they are not getting paid in accordance to their hard work. So this must be improved, and more people are coming and they are facing a lot of issue, and they are facing these grievances. So I know that this is problem, and I think courts are doing lot of this, and government are taking schemes that our Delhi government has taken a scheme of 5,000 rupees should be given as a stipend to the new generation lawyer. So I think government is taking initiative for the first generation, all the lawyers, not only first generation lawyers, for all the new lawyers who are facing this problem to earn the money. Yeah.
That's awesome. What's your perception on establishment of law firms by women who are in the profession of law?
My perspective, they can do so. They can do so. There is no problem, as I have shown you the statistics that more and more women are coming and they are being employed in the business. So there is no problem. My perception is that if they want to do so, they can do so. There is no problem, and they should not see that I'm a woman. Oh, I am a woman, I cannot do this. Women can do anything, and especially when we go to court, judges do not see that whether this lawyer is woman or a male. If you are having a good argument, if you are having good merits on the case, you will get the relief. It doesn't depend on the gender. I think so.
That's actually a very great reply, Monica. And just a last question out here.
Yeah.
What would be your message to young lawyers who are sitting out here, especially females,
Okay.
on entrepreneurship?
Okay. I have been in a college for 5 years, obviously. So I've seen a lot of perspective of students that I want to go for cooperative field, I want to go for criminal field. Why I don't want to go to criminal field? Why I want to go to corporate field? Okay. So if a person is going for a criminal field, he says that I have an interest in criminal field. I want to see the accused persons and all of these. If I against opinion of the criminal field, they say that I cannot favor the accused persons, I cannot do so. I want to favor the victim. Obviously, you see in criminal field, you see the rapist also, you see the murderers also. So before going for criminal field, you have to take in your mind that you have to do your karma, and you don't have to see whether this person is accused or whether this person is victim. You just have to uh, uh, argue on the in favor of your client. You don't have to see whether he is accused or victim. And if you go for corporate firm, there is lot of hard work. It totally based upon your interest, whether you have an interest in the criminal field or in corporate field. It totally based upon your interest. Yes, that's all.
That's actually a great message, Monica. I appreciate your speech as well as your statistical way of depicting numbers. That's actually a perfect way of proving something out there.
Thank you.
And we are lawyer, you know that better. Thank you for your amazing speech, Monica.
Thank you.
I would like to thank all the speakers on the panel as well as all the attendees for staying patient throughout our speeches and enduring us for another day. However, I would like to conclude this session with a note of thanks to all my speakers for the amazing and fabulous speeches. Amazingly, your presentations and with the speeches with those numbers, figures, and examples, and those case studies especially would help the attendees a lot. And at the same time, I would like to request the attendees to attend, stay tuned up till our next session tomorrow at the same time, 7 p.m. IST. Enjoy an upcoming session on the very same topic again.